To the board members, we are live on the YouTube feed right now, just waiting on Adrian, and then I will start recording and we'll get the actual meeting started so that you're aware. Board members, I'm just helping Adrian out with link problems, so bear with me. We'll be ready to roll momentarily.
I am sorry, everybody. My link just would not open. So now I am here. I apologize profusely.
Adrian, give me 1 second to get the recording started. Yes, we'll be good to go, okay?
Yep.
And you're recording. We are good to go.
Okay. I am calling the board meeting to order at 7:02. I apologize for being late. The joys of technology. Let's see. I'm trying to do this meeting not being at home. And it's a little screwy. So could we have an approval of the agenda, please? Somebody would.
Oh, you mean a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, so moved.
Thank you, Liz. Could I have a second? Hands would be, oh, thank you, Maria. Wave your hand because everybody's very small. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the, well, actually, I guess I should call. Do we have any discussion on the agenda, any additions or subtractions? I'm sorry. Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, anybody nay? No. Abstentions? No, thank you. Approval of the minutes from 5/19. If I could have a motion to approve. Thank you, Len. Thank you, Len and Maria. Is there any discussion or changes to the agenda? I mean, to the minutes, sorry. Were there any corrections that anybody knew of? I don't know if everybody noticed there was a note on the minutes before, so that's included in this minutes. Everybody's good with that? Okay. I guess I will call the question. Are we all in favor of the minutes as presented? Thank you. Anybody no? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Public input and announcements. I don't believe we have any public that had signed up for making comment.
Adrian, we have no one signed up for public comment.
Okay. Well, I guess we don't have anything. Okay. Anybody have any announcements? I guess that was the public input. Seeing none, we will go to the principal updates. Do you guys like to raise your hand on who would like to be first? Dan, I have never called on you first. Dan.
It's perfect. I was just going to raise my hand anyway.
Good.
Good evening. I hope everyone's doing well and had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend of dodging raindrops. But I hope everyone got some rest and relaxation. Wallingford's been doing great. Like any school, we are just ramping things up as we wrap up the school year. All the students did really well during the SBAC testing season. They danced their way through the test as we had music blasting every morning. And since then, we've collected a dance party out front of school with an insistent request for music each morning. So now that's just our thing, I guess. Dance disco at the curb. We got some preliminary results, and you know, it is what it is. Some of it's hard to really see, and there's not really much of a breakdown. But I'd say we're more proud of our STAR 360 results because we can see that students are making growth. And we had teachers this week doing transition meetings, so they were sharing specific areas that the class overall and patterns of individual students could use some extra support in, or where they're ready to learn at for next year. So we'll be able to hit the ground running there. We do have Pi the Principal coming up this Friday. So following the MRU Act, I've heard not to have my mask near my face when the whipped cream starts to settle. So I'll try to avoid that. We had a big round, a final round of ESTs, just some new students that need some support, looking forward to next year. But we did have a lot of students that are being exited and kind of being put on watch because they've made such great growth and have reached that grade level expectation. So that's big kudos to our teachers who I know have been tracking and supporting those students, but also our interventionists for both English and math have just been phenomenal. So that's made all the difference in these students making leaps and bounds of more than a year of growth. And just looking forward to next week, a fun-filled week full of festivities and celebrations. I cannot believe that we have made it to this point through COVID. I didn't think this year was ever going to end and it was going to be like Groundhog's Day or something, but we've made it through, and I definitely attribute that to just the support of everyone leaning on one another and working together through it. So I don't think, actually, I know we would not have been as successful if it weren't for the support of the board and especially the district administration and just the way that we started, progressed through the year, returning in person, and wrapped up the year. So I thank you for everyone's efforts that have gone into making it as smooth as it possibly could be. Any questions?
I would just like to say cheers to the piano player in the background.
Oh my gosh. Sarah. Those are things you just tune out as a dad, I guess.
Like it's not a saxophone.
For the drums, right? But no, it's really quite nice. So
Yeah.
cheers.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry about that.
I had said thank you in mute, but whatever. Jody, would you like? Jody, would you like to go?
Sure, I'd love to. Suddenly and incredibly, it is June, and spring has even come up to Shrewsbury. You know, ending the year, I just want to say how proud I am of all of our students. They really have shown such resiliency and continued to just learn and excel this school year, and to the staff that have just, you know, overcome every single barrier, obstacle, wall, and crazy situation you could imagine this year to just get it done. We're looking forward to sixth grade graduation coming up next week. We're going to have that on the main field. This year, just sixth grade families attending with some staff, but we look forward to hopefully by next year having the usual whole shebang back. Field day is happening next week as well. So thanks to the PTO who is helping to set everything up. We will have field day separately by class, but every single class, although they will stick together, will get to go through a whole variety of activities, including some funny water things. So the PTO has worked really hard to keep that COVID safe, but still make it really, really exciting and fun. The graduating class of 2021 was gifted this amazing topographical map that is now hanging up in the walls of the school. I can't wait to be able to show everybody, but it shows all of Shrewsbury, and the kids have been having such a great time just looking for their houses, comparing elevation. It's been an amazing teaching tool. And just a special thanks to second grade teacher Erin Rice, who every year for, more than 7 years, I believe, has gotten flags and placed them before Memorial Day with her students at the grave sites in Northam Cemetery of those who gave their lives in service. And so that's always a really special rite of passage for the students.
Thank you, Jody. I mean, that I wanted to say that's a tradition that I believe was started by Cynthia Shan years and years ago. I'm sure some of you remember Cynthia, and it's great that Erin has kept that up, because I think it means something to the community to see all those flags show up at the cemetery. There's something that you said that I wanted to ask a question. Well, I'll get back to it at some point. Fred, how about you? I'll go in a circle. You're next.
All right. Thank you very much. I've got 3 brief comments. Categories: emotional well-being, focused on our 6th graders, and then student improvement across the board, and then our community engagement as well. So we're very pleased, like Jody said, to have our promotion night. The kids were really bummed to think that they couldn't have it. The teachers all pulled together. It's this Tuesday coming, the 8th at 6:30. If you can make it, we'd love to see you. Each one of the kids actually cheered when they found out they could do that, and then do their last hall walk, which has been a tradition at Clarendon for many years before I was there. And I want to thank the high school for bringing the 6th graders to the building and giving them a tour and meeting the teachers. I really thank the teachers that were involved in that, because that eased the minds of our 6th graders on the move up. So that was much appreciated. Student improvement, we're looking at our final assessments and where gaps appeared. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do much PBL or fit in like social studies, so that content area fell a little bit. But we are looking at where to enhance and enrich and begin again our PBL program like it was in the past. We're doing a lot of cross-curriculum stuff there, and that helps to close the gaps, I think. So in our community engagement, as you guys know, most of the time we have 4 or 5 luncheons throughout the year, and bring the families in. We like to have an end of year barbecue after field day, but none of that we could do. So we are proud of the learners and the educators that put together the Memorial Day commemoration video, because we usually do that Friday before Memorial Day, and a ton of veterans come. A lot of the community comes. It's really an exciting event that we have, and we couldn't do that. So the kids and the teachers pulled it together, and because of safety measures or whatever, that was our best option. But hope you got a chance to see it. If you didn't, it's in your email. And I'd like to thank Joe for doing all of the videotaping, and John for doing the musical accompaniment in the background. Otherwise, Clarendon is looking good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Fred. Jody, a quick question for you. I was going to ask you about the map. Was that one of Alan Shelby's maps? Just to give him kudos, if that it was. Okay. I guess thank you to Alan for producing such a great map. It was wonderful. Maureen.
Yes.
Thank you.
So up at Tinmouth this year, we started a new tradition which aligns with our mission to get kids connected to the environment. So the 5th, 6th graders every year are now kayaking the channel, the Tinmouth Channel, with their PE teacher. It's a beautiful channel. I did it last year. It's gorgeous. And then we're also going to be having pizza in our town pizza oven, which isn't aligned with our mission statement, but we love pizza, so it works out well. Anyway, we just finished testing and we're celebrating because we have 5 kids that had gone through MTSS that are now officially on grade level, according to the Fontes and Pinnell. And a lot of this happened this year. And I attribute it to a couple of factors. And one would be the MTSS system itself helped us to mobilize the resources needed to get those kids at grade level. It also brought their parents into the picture, which is another vital ingredient for success for kids to be engaged. And then finally, the teachers. I can't say enough about the teachers I'm working with this year. They designed the after-school program where they tutor the kids, they differentiate in class, they do the guided reading. And so they were able to bring these kids up to grade level in spite of COVID. And they're just pretty amazing. And we celebrate when kids get up to grade level because that's really why we teach, because they're very child-centered. And I'm just real proud of my teachers. So, and I'm real proud of the kids too. So anyway, that's what I have for tonight.
Wonderful report. Thank you, Maureen. That's wonderful. I think the teachers in all the schools have done amazing work this year, but it's nice to hear specifics like that. Thank you. Tyler.
Good evening. I have to preempt this with, I apologize where Dan's background music was really nice. My daughter is practicing her flute right now, so if you hear that, I do apologize because it's not as nice. So if you hear that, I apologize. Anyway, as everyone else has been talking about end of the year wrap-ups, we're in the same spot. It's amazing how quickly we're coming to a close. Students are getting all their work in. Our Chromebooks are starting to come back in. So I mean, it's interesting where we've only been in person for really a month now with everyone in the building at the same time. So it feels like the year shouldn't be over yet, but it is. So it's a weird dynamic, but I know our kids and our teachers and everything are looking forward to a nice summer break. As Fred brought up before, today was our 6th grade step-up day. It was really great seeing those students in the building and getting to see their teachers. They had different activities planned for them, and it's kind of funny. We had our leadership team meeting today in person in the library, and during that meeting, Jen McElmore, our assistant principal, was running a Kahoot kind of ice-breaking activity for the kids. And every once in a while, you hear these cheers because the questions were, the teams were getting their points. And it was funny. No one else really clued in on the meeting of what was going on, but Jen, I knew. And every once in a while, Jen would look at me and smile because we could hear the kids roaring in the background. And so it was fun. It was fun to have them in the building. And I think that adds to success for next year for them being comfortable and coming in and knowing their teachers before they come into a new building. So some more of the end of the year stuff we're looking at this Saturday from 8 to 10:30 at Mill River. We're hosting prom for our juniors and seniors. The gym was actually being decorated today for that, so that's going to be an exciting activity for our kids, and a little bit more of a return to normalcy that we can provide for this year. Now, I will give a little bit of a teaser, if you will, about graduation. We're kind of up in the air in terms of when graduation is going to be because we're trying to predict the weather, which is impossible to predict. But next week is looking hot, and we want to make sure that we give ourselves ample time to have graduation done. So, little teaser: we're looking at Monday. We're looking at Monday the 7th for our graduation ceremony. I'll make that official tomorrow. But for those of you who are watching in the community, we're looking at Monday the 7th as our official graduation ceremony, even though the official graduation date is June 9th. Wednesday, but again, we're looking at the weather and what that can provide for us and be nice to us, if you will. Another thing I want to point out to students that had a really successful sporting event just recently. Annika Heinz, and I'm going to quote the Rutland Herald here, handedly won 3 individual state championships in track and field, and quotes by saying handedly won. So she had a great showing. Mitchell Steenberger took 2nd in the discus throwing. So, our kids are still performing well in athletics and what have you. So it's much to be appreciated, and congratulate those students when we see them. Summer program, and I'm sorry, I got a lot going on here. We do have some summer programming coming up for our kids. Things that we are looking at are, some is remediation and some is more social, emotional, get together, go out for a hike, learn a little bit about our environment and our surroundings. Something of, I'm just give you the titles here: Green Mountain Hiking, Lazy River Week, Garden Time with Mr. Gamache, Adventures in Local and Oral History, and Social Studies remediation are some of our topics that our teachers are doing over the summer. So again, a lot of offerings for our kids that we're proud and lucky to be able to provide for our kids this summer. And then finishing things off, our new assistant principal, Kaylin Thompson, did come and visit the building about 2 weeks ago, and got a really good feel. Got to meet some of the staff, and I've been actively communicating with her, what have you, about prepping for next year. And I'm looking forward to her coming on board, and I think we'll have a very good year next year with hopefully a fair return to normalcy. So, any questions from anyone? Doug, go ahead.
Yeah. What time is graduation on Monday? If it's a Monday.
If it's Monday, 6:30. So any night that week, graduation is going to be 6:30. Our students are going to be arriving to the building about 5:30. We do ask that once our 5 guests per graduate that they arrive on time, and we can make sure we are pretty prompt on our schedule.
Are we still scheduling to be down in the football field?
Yep. Actually, I was out there this morning mapping out where our guests are going to be seated. They're going to be in pods, if you will, 6 feet apart. And another thing I want to bring out to that I'm going to put in my communication tomorrow is that, because we're going to be outside, because we are appropriately socially distanced at 6 feet, it's going to be up to our guests' comfort level on masks. If they want to wear masks, by all means, go for it. If they do not, they're vaccinated, please, that's fine. They can not wear masks. But we have plenty of room on the field for that. So, that is something that we are actively mapping out, and we'll be assigning soon.
Seniors could have made a bundle selling Mill River masks.
Well, it's funny you might say that, Doug. Actually, all of our we ordered masks for all of our graduates. So all of our graduates have a mask. Unfortunately, because our graduates are going to be sitting on the bleachers behind the stage, looking out at the audience, we're not able to keep them more than 6 feet apart. So they are going to be wearing masks once they are when they're in the bleachers. When they walk down and come on stage, they can take their mask off, receive their diploma, take a picture, and then go back up to the bleachers and put their mask back on. But we do have a mask for them, albeit they're a little large. When they came in the mail, it was interesting. We had 2 size options, kids and adults. We went with adults, and they're large, but we'll make it work.
It'll be the year of masks and caps.
Masks and caps. I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for me by chance?
Anybody?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Everybody had such great news. It was a pleasure to listen to. Central office reports. Who would like to lead us off? Gary, you're always last. So how about you?
There we go. Get on mic here.
Didn't expect that, did you?
Actually, yeah, no, I didn't. But I've actually got very little to go over this evening because we're kind of in, for my department, a little bit of a lull as we wait for the so-called summer storm to hit us. Right now, we're waiting for the academic year to end so that we can get busy. We're looking at it being a fairly calm construction season. Our biggest projects this summer, both of them are actually located at Timoth Elementary School. The roofing project that we are undertaking this summer. And also we're having some difficulty for quite a long time with an underground leak. And we're going to be digging the grounds up until we find that pesky leak this summer. So those are our 2 big construction projects. Other than that, we're into the normal waxing, cleaning, painting, and miscellaneous repair routine. But I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone had.
Gary, I'm curious to know what is leaking where.
The water system from the well, the line that runs from the Timoth Firehouse that provides water up to the school is leaking underground somewhere. And we were hopeful that after the frost left that water would find its way to the surface somehow so we'd be able to locate that leak. It has not done so. So as soon as basically the academic year is over, we're going to be shutting the water off and doing some digging and finding where it's leaking.
Have you tried the dowser, Gary?
Actually, we have. We've tried the dowser. We've tried listening devices. We have tried everything you can think of, and we've been unsuccessful at this point.
Does that lead you to think that maybe it's under the road?
There's a couple of places it could be. Under the road is one very large concern. There is also an area where some of the records show that it goes underneath the Timoth building, under a slab. So it could be in that area. It also could be really anywhere if it's found a nice vein of gravel and it just would never come to the surface.
Okay, well, thank you. Did anyone have any other questions for Gary? No? Okay. Since we're trying to switch it up, Coral, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So let's see. Special services, we're pretty busy. I know that seems unusual this time of the year. You think of things sort of winding down, but in the special services realm, we actually start gearing up because we start our summer programming through what's called ESY, or extended year services. So we have a very short turnaround time between the end of the school year and then sort of the start of those services. But this year we're really looking forward to it. We had to get creative with staffing this year, but we were able to pull off some good things that are a little out of the norm for us, but we're excited about. So trying something different. Change can be good, and we're going to see how things go this summer. So looking forward to that. I did want to just give a thanks to Gary, especially because the special services staff are going to be spread out amongst a couple of school buildings this year. In fact, the only building we're not using is Timoth. They have a water problem up there. so I just heard. So we won't be occupying Timoth, but it is not easy for him or his folks to, clean around and do their projects around people occupying buildings. So I just want to give Gary and his staff a shout out for just being as flexible as they're able to be and working with us, because we felt that this summer is important for our kids to kind of stay in their schools as much as possible. So excited about that. And then the next thing is just informally, I just wanted to, and Gary will join in here as well, I just wanted to continue to sort of keep the board apprised of where things are at with regard to the relocation, if you will, of the foundations program. Gary and I have sort of been tag teaming on discussing options and just having discussions that we need to have about pros and cons. We have really looked at different options, but we've kind of come to the united front that we feel that the old RSSU building is probably the most viable location. And so we are starting to kind of hone our research in that direction, if you will. Again, I'm not ready to report anything concrete to the board regarding costs or anything like that quite yet, but I just want to keep you folks abreast of the fact that we are starting to kind of hone our research and our legwork into that area. So I've been learning an awful lot about Gary's job, which I don't love. So things like that, there's a lot of homework involved. So that's really where Gary and I have been at, is really trying to do our homework. So I'm happy to take questions, but that's kind of projects pending in the special services realm right now.
Anybody? I guess you had alluded to having a little trouble staffing for your summer work. You think you've got that?
We did.
I've heard about that across the state.
It's so funny because even colleagues of mine in other districts, we get emails from them all the time. Like, does anybody have, a speech language pathologist that might be willing to help us? Does anybody have, a special educator that might be willing to help us? So we were all kind of engaged in like trading staff type conversations, but we were able to put together a model, as I said, that's a little bit different than our norm. It will involve, using a higher number of paraeducators. We are running some special education camps, if you will. So that allows us to put more kids together in groups. So we'll be providing some services in larger groups and things like that, and then have breakout sessions where kids can still get one-to-one and small group instruction. So it'll be just a little bit different this summer, but hey, who knows? This could be the wave of the future for us. I'm not sure, but it did all come together, and I'm really, really super psyched about that. So
that is exciting. Thank
Yeah.
you, Paul. I'm sure it was difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we could go to Brian. Is Brian in? Are you the phone number, Brian?
Yes, I'm here, Adrian. Good evening, everybody. So a theme that we seem to be hearing, the year is winding down, but a lot of summer work is winding up. It was interesting, Tyler mentioned bringing Chromebooks in and collecting those. We just got our shipment of new Chromebooks that we ordered in August. So that's been our year. It's been a really interesting one. And huge pat on the back to our tech guys, Ken and Chris. They have worked incredibly hard to get us through this year while we've struggled to find new machines. So that's huge thanks to them. Believe it or not, we've got a big Wi-Fi upgrade this summer. We'll be updating every access point in the district, which is a nice place for us to be, and it'll be a good summer to do that. Health services staff, huge thanks to them for the work they've done this year. While things have slowed down, they still have lots of work to do, and they've put in a huge effort this year, going above and beyond, making sure that they're keeping staff, students, our communities, and families safe. So huge thanks to them as well. The big work that I'll talk about right now, and if this is okay, I'll just give you the recovery update here. The big work, and the nice thing about this is it aligns with some of our board goals very clearly. The AOE has asked us to be focusing on academics as we come out of the pandemic and plan for next year, to also focus on student social, emotional well-being, and mental health, and thirdly, to focus on truancy and engagement. And those definitely line up with our academic board goals, our attendance board goals, and our social emotional board goals. We've worked really hard with principals, and principals have worked really hard with their staff to think through these large grant funds that are coming our way. How are we going to use those to best meet our students' needs in those three areas, the academics, the social emotional, and the truancy engagement? We've got a wonderful list of things we've brainstormed, and the great news is we're not going to let this grant money go to waste. We've got some tentative plans. There are some summer programs that are being pushed out and planned very quickly to pull off in August and a little earlier in the summer, in addition to Carrie Becker's after-school programs. We're meeting next week again with principals to start planning around some of the things that we've seen in common across the district. So if our elementary schools are hitting on a common theme for academics, we're going to explore how can we do some professional development together across the district so we can use that grant funding wisely, so we're not all doing different things if we're seeing similar needs and we have similar ideas on how to meet those needs. We'll be thinking about coordinating some temporary staff. So, for example, an idea that we've got out there is a homeschool liaison person. So somebody who could work very, very with laser focus on the kids that are disconnected. How do we reach out to them? How do we connect with them? How do we get them back in school? Not a truancy approach of we're going to call you up and you're in trouble, but how can we reach out to you before we get too far into the year and start rebuilding those connections and re-engaging you in school? That's not the sort of thing that we'd always need, but it's definitely something that over the next couple of years with grant funding, we can support and we can try and make a difference and be meeting those board goals while we're doing it. And that's just one example of some of the things that we're going to be meeting next week to try and coordinate. We'll definitely have some more concrete things on paper as we get a little closer to next year. That's where we are with our planning. Any questions?
I don't see any hands, Brian. I guess I will make a comment. That's a tremendous amount of work. I think that's amazing. And I'm thrilled that you have the wherewithal to be able to address these items.
We have a lot of great people, all pulling in the same direction, and that makes a difference.
I mean, I see some of that in other schools, but I think we're doing really well. And I think we're doing, we're trying the right thing. I know in some schools, they haven't even been able to staff their summer school. And we're getting tremendous, cooperation all the way around. And I really appreciate all of our administrators sort of corralling everybody and everybody that's stepping up.
Absolutely.
So, no comments. Thank you, Brian. Andrew.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm not going to have anyone playing a piano in the back or a flute. I'll have a barking dog. So that may happen here at any moment. So I wanted to provide some kind of thoughts and reflections as we begin to exit the pandemic, and as I prepare to move on to another district and we bring on a new director of curriculum. As Brian was saying, I think it'll be important to re-engage with our board goals. And one I want to draw attention to you tonight is board goal number 2, which emphasizes supporting student academic, social emotional learning within a high quality proficiency-based learning environment. When the pandemic happened, most of our instructional improvement efforts were kind of put on pause because we had to focus our attention on just learning how to do remote learning and then hybrid learning and then trying to get our kids back into the classroom safely. And it's been, an incredible feat by our teachers to be doing this work, but it wasn't much bandwidth left over to be focused on things such as, continuing with our work with proficiency-based learning or elements of Act 173 or Act 77, among other things. But though we'll still certainly be tired from the pandemic, I think it's important for the board to keep in the back of your mind, where we should be putting our attention. And one of those things for the new director of curriculum and principals and teachers is to re-engage with that work of proficiency-based learning that includes all sorts of practices such as a guaranteed and viable curriculum, formative assessment, tier 2 classroom-based interventions, among many other kind of elements that make up the package of proficiency-based learning. I also want to kind of bring you back to a document I shared back in the fall called Rethinking or Making Revisions to the Grammar of Schooling, which was a report put out by the Agency of Education back in September. And that was a collaboration between a large group of both education stakeholders and non-education stakeholders from a variety of areas, including the business world, to really kind of throw together some ideas around how can we ensure as we exit the pandemic, and back then we had no clue when that was going to be and how long that was going to take, to make sure that we don't just snap back to the status quo and just go back to normal, because the reality is normal wasn't working for a lot of our students. It was working for some of our students, but it wasn't working for all of our students. And in order to have an equitable learning environment, we need to make sure that we're using evidence-based practices that are equitable and are making sure that are supporting all of our students in our buildings. And so that, if you're not familiar with that document, I'll share it out with all board members because I think it's a good document to use as a lens as we move forward. And again, these are things that we've talked about as a leadership team. And I know that other administrators will be doing this work as we kind of think about next year and upcoming years, and is certainly part of our recovery plans. But as a school board, I just wanted to kind of throw that out to you to be thinking about, to make sure that we continue to emphasize that work and re-engage with our implementation efforts so that we can do better as we kind of redesign our learning environments. So that's all from me for tonight.
That-
Any questions?
That was pretty big. That was fun. Questions for Andrew? I don't see anyone, although a fair number of people are frozen. So speak up if I don't see you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you betcha. And I'll share that document with folks later this week.
Okay, that would be really helpful because we'll be discussing our board retreat later on, and that will certainly impact that. Stan, I know you're here. I saw you.
I'm here.
Okay.
Excuse me. I don't have a very long report, so that's good news. Unfortunately for us, even though school is winding down for the business office, we kind of hit a 3-month really busy time. Obviously, we'll be working on cleaning up things for this year, getting things set for next year so that we're up and running on July 1st, and also dealing with another audit for this year. I mean, things just seem to be just rolling over, recycling themselves. As far as our finances, nothing has really changed since my last report that was sent to you. We're still looking at about a $1.8 million surplus at the end of this year. And as you're aware, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the audit for FY20 was completed for informational purposes. If anybody in the public wants to read that audit, it is now available on our website. It can be found on the Mill River dashboard on the business office tab, which is located under the information for parents, guardians, and community members. And that's basically all that I have. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I think you deserve a pat on the back since we read the audit letter, and it was really good. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
It's always nice to get those clean letters.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So, congratulations.
Yep. Thank you.
I don't see any hands, but if people would need to speak up. Nope. Okay. Well, thank you, Stan.
Yep.
Carrie.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I have 3 issues or points I just wanted to make tonight. One is, as with principals, the business office, and all, we're winding up with after school, but this is actually, and I have used the term hellish in several emails to people lately. It's, we're really grateful that only 4% of the local school budget goes to after school. We have 96% of our funding comes off grants, and this is when we pay for it with the reporting, state reporting, federal reporting, private reporting. So anyway, it just becomes a whirlwind this month at the same time that we're in the midst of planning the summer program. Although fortunately I have such phenomenal staff, particularly Tracy Tinsley with that I'm kind of peripheral on that. I'm just the support person that provides the resources. But anyway, I'll be sure to share some summaries of reports with all of you in the summer when we get that kind of together. That's one thing. The second is we've hired a new site director at Shrewsbury Mountain School. And I want to thank Jody for helping me with completely supporting this person. Her name is Alice Coates Martin. She's a graduate of Castleton, a new education graduate, and just a wonderfully talented young woman that's worked with us in the past. We're really fortunate. It's always difficult with the little schools when we have turnover to find people, particularly that are committed and talented. And Alice worked with us at our lowest point, which was last summer when we couldn't do the summer program that we had planned. And she and Sarah put together an amazing array of remote programs that, believe it or not, our kids still wanted to do. And they were sending children craft kits in the mail and sending them books. And the creativity was really astounding. And so we're thrilled to have Alice on board with us. Last point, summer program. We are not going to be able to do the swimming lessons we thought that we were. That's kind of been a last minute, but Tracy's still working really hard with some other resources and other possibilities to do swimming. We've learned that actually most of our elementary students in our district, the way that they receive swimming lessons is through our summer program. That's been the way for years. It's been a tradition. And so it's a really important piece for parents. So we're still working and hoping that that's all going to come through. But White's Pool, that's normally our venue, is not going to work for us. Excellent variety of outdoor enrichment programs. The focus this summer is fresh air, sunshine, and a lot of social emotional development and learning attention for our kids. We have actually, when we talk about staff, my colleagues statewide are really almost all struggling terribly with staffing. We have more people that wanted to work with us than we could hire this year, even though we have a higher staff. So we have a nice low ratio of staff to students this year. We have guidance support that's going to, Paula Reynolds will be working with us with families and kids. We fortunately have funding that's going to allow us again to run a little bit of a different program, addressing a lot of the needs that are, of course, coming out of the pandemic and with the recovery programming. So anyway, just finally, just a shout out to, the after school and summer staff. I'm so fortunate to have just such an array of talent and experience. Cheryl Maneri, even though some of you may know she's retiring, she's not retiring from after school. She's going to stay with us next year, which is terrific. I think she will die in that position someday, truly. And I don't want to say that's a good thing, but it just shows her commitment. And again, I'm just very fortunate. And I want to just thank all of them and thank all of you for supporting after school and summer this year.
Sounds exciting. Does anyone have any questions for Carrie? She certainly gave us enough information. Okay, Carrie, thank you very much. It sounds like you have a busy time coming up, but it sounds wonderful. Thank you. I guess we've already done the recovery planning update. Strategic planning goals survey discussion. I'm not really sure what the intention of that was, Dave.
Adrian, you and I had had a realization.
Tell me I knew this because I'm feeling a little out.
That's okay. You're traveling and got a lot going on. Okay. We talked a little bit about how we've had some conversations around surveys and around getting information, and actually the connection between our current board goals and the expectation, the goals that we would be serving over time with families and communicating. So it's just a topic for discussion to kind of tie into the strategic planning piece.
Okay, I did not realize that's what we were. Thank you for reminding me. I will open this up for conversation. I don't have a direction to send us in specifically, but I had sort of alluded to the fact that we were going to be meeting on the 26th, which we had all agreed on, to work on the reacquainting our current board, past board members and new board members on what our goals are and what the board goals are and how they're being used. But we have more than that. The survey discussion is also something that started in, I guess it started in personnel and it's moved out. I'm not sure what direction the board would like to take in this conversation. Len, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question on the survey. I know at the last meeting someone brought up about surveys for the athletic side, and I know we've personnel in the personnel committee, we've started the discussion of exit surveys, but I don't know if they're the same thing. If you're talking about surveys for athletics, I don't know who that would be addressed to. I think the exit surveys in terms of personnel would be for those teachers, administrators, staff who are leaving for one reason or another. I'm not sure where the athletic one fits in there.
I think we had broadened the conversation to surveys of community of students, but Liz, you put your hand up, and then BJ.
Yes, so I would just like to add, and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, but this is part of our board goals. There are board goals that kind of speak to community feedback about what we're doing and thoughts to inform the district. And so I think a survey is a great idea. I think it should be broader than just athletics. We want feedback on all the things. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't have it right in front of me, but it is part of our board goals that we engage the community in a way so that we know what our families are thinking, and they have an opportunity to share their thoughts, and that informs our work.
PJ? Thank you, Liz.
I'm actually going to kind of what Liz said type of a thing. Yes, I think this should be a lot broader than athletics. I also surveys, I think we have to be careful with the surveys because it's hard to really get the feedback that we need to get the amount of people to fill out the survey to get the data to be viable. And I know I'm a very bad survey taker personally. As a community member, I hate the start going from one to 5. So I think it's important that we have conversations about getting feedback from the community on certain topics and things like that. I personally am not a survey fan. I'd rather really capitalize on what we're already doing with the community engagement committees and especially the email address that we now have, and really encourage people to give us feedback on certain things rather than a survey going out. That's just my thoughts on that one.
Thank you, BJ. Maria?
Yeah, what they said, what Liz and BJ said. Yeah, as for community engagement, I feel like that's something we can bring to our next meeting and talk about that somewhat too, about how best we could do that. I mean, ideally, maybe it would be a combination, because a survey does work for some people who don't feel comfortable coming to a larger group, but really do want to be heard. So some combination would be great. And we were just talking, when we were talking, I don't know. Anyway, I've been thinking lately about how right now we're all kind of hungry for contact with other people. So this might be a great time to take advantage and to have some events where we invite our community in and gather ideas, not necessarily figure things out, but hear from people in a broader forum than we have been able to lately. So that's something I think we can bring to the community engagement committee to mull over and bring back to the board and say, hey, how about we do this? And the board can be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And carry on from there, or not, give useful suggestions.
Len?
Yeah, I just want to make clear that it wasn't my intention to limit the surveys. I think, in fact, I agree with everybody that we need to gather more information. Just to add to that, do we set, just as a thought, do we set up a place like the town hall where a couple of board members are present, and maybe they have surveys that they could give out to folks if we made it known that we would be there, and have a survey or even in-person questions that they could ask in that kind of setting. That again might encourage some folks. BJ, you talked about folks that don't like surveys. It might provide an opportunity for folks to come to us, meet us face to face, and give us their opinions and thoughts at that time. Just another option.
Would the board feel comfortable with continuing this conversation as part of the goals conversation in the retreat to sort of map out some kind of a plan for this? I'm seeing some hands raised, but I don't see everybody. Because if we all come with some ideas to that meeting, I think that would be helpful on how, because I think what everybody suggested is good. And I think the live piece is probably going to be the most popular. But maybe some of that would be through the community engagement. Between the board retreat and the community engagement committee planning some events where maybe we also have a survey, instead of having live meeting, or virtual meetings, maybe we'll start with some live meetings where people can come and talk to a board member face to face, and in terms of survey questions, maybe those kind of meetings could have a particular focus on a topic that somebody would want to deal with. But how about we table this until the retreat? Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, and can I just suggest that when we're thinking about what we might want to talk about in the retreat, that we be really clear about our timeline?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. This is not going to happen in a week or 10 days or something. This has to be long term, and folks need to be comfortable with understanding that it's going to take some time.
I think that's a good point. Thank you, Lynn. Because we're really working on trying to change how we communicate with the public. So that doesn't happen overnight, as you say. Okay, I will make sure that that's on the agenda for the retreat, and we'll go from there. Okay, we have on the agenda now number 9, board member request to recite the Pledge of Allegiance at meetings. Doug, that was your suggestion, I believe. Would you like to?
Yeah, yes, yeah, it was. I'm still that way. Let me, we have a large number of persons who are at least the first year, sometimes about third or fourth year. I want everybody to know that I was elected in 1997 to the Clarendon Board, spending 18 years there, board chair 2/3 of that time. During that time, I was also a voting member for what used to be RSSU, Rutland South Supervisory Union, before the compilation of everybody. And the last 4 years, I was 6 years, I was a board member at Mill River, being its chair the last 4 months. I wanted to take over that part so that those who were there could actually work on getting this union set together at the first part of July. Hopefully it worked. That was a big eye-opener. Under none of those times, in this case over the 25 years, did we ever start a meeting without the pledge for the flag. I think we need to get back into that and doing it now. I think what we had on Monday, which was the honoring of those that have died in the idea of saving the flag and keeping us alive and letting us do what we do right now. It's a matter of an interest situation. I have a friend whose oldest brother was a Marine, as he was, and spent a couple of days trying to aspire up a mountain. When they got to the top, there was a bunch of individuals planting the flag up there at Iwo Jima, and he was asked to help out for the other flag, which was considerably larger, but nearly everybody sees the first one, but he was there when it happened. He spent a lot of his life trying to defend the flag. I think it needs to be honored by us and by any public meeting that's going on at any time. I suggest and I hope that we get back to doing that every time we start a meeting.
Okay, I'll open up the conversation. I was sort of hoping someone would say something.
I'll just say that I'm all for it. I'm assuming the students still do it when they're in person at the elementary schools. Kind of looking at some of the principals there to see if I see a nod. Fred, I'm looking at you. Okay. Okay. So I'm for it. I miss it. So.
Okay. Len, sorry.
No, you're okay. I just raised my hand. I agree with BJ and Doug. In my 12 years over at Fairhaven Union High School, they did the pledge every morning. A couple of other things they did, for example, was we had a Memorial Day assembly with all of the students in the gym, and a Veterans Day assembly with all of the students in the gym. Being a veteran, and I have to say that up front, I have certain feelings about how the flag is represented and the importance of remembering those kinds of days. There's a lot of folks who have gone before us who have done a lot to allow us to be where we are. We may not all agree on where we are, but I think it's important to understand that, and I have no problem with the pledge.
Okay. Andrea, you had your hand up, but I see it's down now.
I was just going to mimic Len. I am totally for it. Coming from a family of many, many veterans, yes, I believe that we should be bringing it back.
So do we want a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we can. I mean, I think that's certainly where we're leading.
Because discussion,
the motion then.
Yeah, discussion can continue once the motion is made anyway. So I'll make a motion that at the beginning of each board meeting, we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Is there a second? Andrea, thank you. Or, sorry, BJ, you were late. Okay, I mean, in terms of discussion, are there any other comments before? Maria, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Adrian. I have no problem with people reciting the pledge at the beginning of the board meeting. I just would request that it not be an expectation that everyone is required to recite the pledge.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable expectation. We are all individuals and we all have the right to do it or not do it. I mean, and I would hope that that would not reflect and be commented upon, because people's personal opinions are their own. Ben, go ahead.
Just, and I agree with Maria completely. I mean, we had at school, at Fairhaven, folks didn't walk around to see if kids were doing the pledge or not. So it wasn't an issue, Maria, and I agree with you completely. It should not be brought up as a point of contention. We each are individuals, and that applies to us.
Okay, thank you, Len. Asha? Asha, did you have a comment? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, and also don't forget Matt. If you don't see him,
Oh, I don't see him. Is his hand up?
It was.
Oh,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, folks?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize. I'm having computer lag once again here. So I hope you can hear me. Yes, I would support a return of the Pledge of Allegiance to the beginning of our meetings, and would agree with Maria and Len that I do not think that it should be, that there should be an expectation, but I would support and encourage a return of the pledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Asha. Matt, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No worries, it's fine. I was going to say, earlier on that, I think reciting it is very important. I mean, we are a group of elected officials in the United States of America. That being said, I want to kind of say what Maria said, that, I don't think anybody should ever be criticized for not taking part in it. It is their decision. You can support or have any opinions you want. That's what makes this country great. We can all have difference of opinion, so.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Anybody else want to weigh in before I call the question? Okay. Oh, Matt, you raised your hand again. No?
I hit the wrong button, sorry.
Okay. I thought you wanted to add something. Okay, I will call the question then. Will we return to, now Len, could I adjust the motion to starting to recite the pledge once we return to in-person meetings, or are you going to try? It seems problematic in a virtual setting.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Adrian. I don't have any problem with that. Yeah.
Okay. So I will change I'll say the motion this way. When we return to in-person meetings, that we will include the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the meeting. So, Bruce, you have a comment?
I just have a quick question. I support it, but when we return to real live meetings, where do we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
That is also a choice.
I'm just thinking it's going to look pretty bad if we don't at least at school, when we did it in high school in the past, the students at least stood. They didn't have to say anything, but they at least stood. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I would find it entirely unacceptable if the expectation was that every board member has to stand for the pledge. I mean, that is not, it's just not something that you need to do, and it's not something, in my opinion, that a board should be concerned with. That is part of a personal opinion. Andrea?
So just to be clear, this is back to when we do in-person board meetings. What about in-person committee meetings? Are we doing the Pledge of Allegiance then, or are we just doing it for the board meetings?
I mean, personally, there is no flag in the room where committee meetings are held.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, the motion as it stands is, will we be reciting the pledge, or will that time be available at the beginning of full board meeting? Individual committees can do what individual committees will do.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andrea, for clarifying. Does anyone else have a comment before we vote? Okay, the motion that we are voting on, again, is that we will include the Pledge of Allegiance on the agenda for every full board meeting once we come back to meeting in person. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Those that are voting no. Okay, Sam, I can't see your picture, so I don't have a vote for you.
Oh, sorry, Shrewsbury Internet, will say. I'm going to abstain, thank you.
Okay, well, I hadn't even gotten to that yet, but I wouldn't have.
Yep, so spoiler alert.
Okay, thank you. I believe that was.
And I will abstain. I'll joining Sam and abstaining as well, because as I don't intend to say the pledge, I don't feel like I can request that people say the pledge.
Well, you can still vote that it's be on the agenda, but I mean, that's entirely up to you. I don't think.
No, I'm abstaining from this particular vote.
Okay. I am also abstaining just as chair. This conversation is a difficult one, I think, for a lot of people, but I certainly think that it's fine if we add the pledge to the agendas, and I will follow that. The motion has passed. Thank you. And we will move on to committee business, and I will go to you, Len, first.
Hi there, thank you. We have some board action that's requested. We did meet tonight. To start with, I would make a motion to approve a contract for Jody Stewart-Rupp, 1.0 full-time equivalency director of curriculum, instruction, and equity. And I would make that motion.
And BJ is seconding it. So
yeah, and then what I'd like is to provide the opportunity for Jody to speak to us before we vote, if she's still here.
I'm still here. Hi, guys. So I won't spend a lot of time introducing myself because I think that most of you know me. I've worked in Mill River schools for the last 8 years in a variety of roles, Dean of Students, proficiency-based learning coach, director of personalized learning, and for the last 3 years as the principal of Shrewsbury Mountain School. I love our district. I love our towns. I love and respect each one of the respective communities within each one of our schools. I have been working alongside Andrew for the last 3 years, and a lot of the curricular work he has been doing. I have served as the district equity coordinator for the last 5 years. And although I will be really sad to leave Shrewsbury Mountain School, I'm so excited for the opportunity to do this work and to support our amazing educators in this role.
Thank you, Jody. Just a quick backup of the process. Brian and I interviewed 4 folks to begin with, recommended 2 to go to a committee. Liz was part of that, and it involved community members and administrators. And then that group, out of the 2 that we recommended unanimously Jody to meet with David and Adrian. And so that's how Jody got here. So I've made my motion, it's been seconded it, so. I guess you want me to call the question? I'm sorry, Adrian. So all those in favor of approving the motion for Jody Stewart-Ruck as Director of Curriculum Instruction and Equity? Now, Adrian, you can see if anybody says no. So those are the yeses.
I can't honestly see everyone because some of my screen is frozen. Dave, can you see everybody's screen?
I can see everyone's screen. I'm not sure if Bruce has his hand up or not, but everyone
No,
else has
well,
hand
we
up.
haven't gotten to opposed. So this is 4.
Okay.
I would say names, please. Sorry, excuse me, for the roll call.
Len, Anna's requested that we just have a roll call because so many
Sure.
people are frozen.
Then someone else is going to have to do that because I don't have everybody's name in front of me, and I'm sure I'll miss somebody.
Okay, I can just go across my screen. Liz?
I'm a yes.
Bruce?
Abstain.
Thank you. Len?
Yes.
Going down the line, DJ?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Asha?
Yes.
Matt? Matt, you're muted.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm voting yes.
Okay.
You good, Ann?
Did we get everybody?
Yes, you're part of staff on virtual meetings. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, approve a contract for Andrew Luce, 1.0 full-time equivalency music teacher at Mill River. And I would make that a motion.
Do we have a second? Since I'm looking.
Samantha, thank you. I saw it first.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
So, all those in favor of approving contract for Andrew Luce?
Ann, do you want a roll call again, or are we good? Because I can't see people.
No.
If it's unanimous, you don't need a roll call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Len, do you want to just see if there's anybody
Anybody opposed?
verbal?
Anybody abstain? Then that would make it unanimous. Okay. Thank you. Is that okay, Ann?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And then approve a contract for Tammy Engelhardt, 1.0 full-time equivalency art teacher at Wallingford, Tinmouth, and Shrewsbury. And I make that a motion. And Maria seconds. Okay, thank you. I got Maria first. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? So again, it appears it's unanimous. Okay, Ann?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. And then just a quick update. We're still talking about exit, as we stated earlier, exit surveys, exit interviews, and we're still working on the superintendent's evaluation. I will be sending to all board members a copy of the evaluation tool. Those of you who were with us last year, it'll be the same thing. Those of you who weren't, I will send you the tool via email. I will also send you my actual home address. So once you get the evaluation, you can fill it out and then you stick it in an envelope and mail it back to me. You don't need to put your name on it or any of that kind of thing. It's designed so that, I mean, if you don't care that we know it's coming back from you, that's fine. Maria and I will then take those evaluations put them together, look at those results. We've interviewed 3 administrators and 1 district official. We will interview 4 more next week. So after those interviews are done, we have the input from the board, and David is going to do a personal self-evaluation as well. Then Maria and I will sit down and look at all of that information, and then we will bring it back to the personnel committee. And then once we go through the personnel committee, we will then bring it to the full board for approval. So I just wanted you to know that's what the process. So I'll send you the email. And then, as I say, I will include in that email, I will give you my home address, and feel free to send it to me. And just know, I just want to make it clear, what Maria and I did last year was, I didn't open them. I didn't look at them until she was here. And then we sat outside. It was a nice day. And we sat outside and opened them up and went through them at that point. So I want you to feel safe in how the evaluation is done. So that's it for me, I think.
Thank you, Len. I wanted to say, since we usually congratulate everybody, first, Jody, congratulations on taking on another role, and to the yes, thank you. we appreciate your incredible flexibility and willingness to step up whenever we need you.
Thank you for that.
Congratulations to our other new employees. That they're welcome to our community, and we appreciate they're applying to us. BJ, policy.
Actually, nothing to report other than we have our next meeting coming up next Tuesday at 5:30.
Okay, thank you. Buildings and grounds, Doug.
There we go. Gary said a lot of what was happening, which is really not much. He is getting ready to start getting in some of the cleanings and the paintings and stuff that we do. I remember in years gone past, it was always a year during the summer to put a carpet somewhere. We've sort of gotten out of that idea. We are happy that the new van that we had to purchase out of Bennington got here on time from what they did. We went down one day, brought it back. We were able to get a better deal down there, although we weren't looking for it, but this one came with a hybrid, which is going to save us a chunk of money here and there. We talked about the water leak that we're trying to figure out how to get to. Talked about the roofing also at Timoth. That's going to be a couple of the big jobs that we're really going to go. Everything else is going to be kind of minor and small stuff like that. I do want to get, no, that's something else coming up. We'll be back later. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Community engagement, Maria.
Oh, thanks. As far as I know, we did not have any attendance at our last community conversation, which is fine. That happens sometimes. We didn't have any public comment tonight, but we have another community conversation coming up on the 3rd Monday in June, which is the 21st, and that'll be at 6:30. And I don't have that document with me. Can anybody pull it up quick and just let us know who the board members are signed up for that? Sam, can you look that up? You're really good at that. And while that's going on, our next community engagement meeting is the 2nd Tuesday at 6:30, which is next week. And we're lucky that that does not conflict with Mill River's graduation or Wallingford's, but it does conflict with Clarendon. So if Clarendon board members who are on the community engagement committee would like to go to Clarendon and wish those 6th graders well, go ahead. That would be great.
Okay.
And if you'd like, and we'll be talking about ways to engage and talking more about that survey and about the community conversations, just because I'm going to keep saying it every meeting until forever, probably. The difference between the community engagement meeting and the community conversation. So there's engagement meeting, there's conversations. The conversation is the time to for members of the community to come and have a more like relaxed and maybe frank conversation with board members about decisions that they've made lately, goals that we might have. It's more if they have questions, if you have questions about things that have happened or confusion about decisions that got made or things like that, we can't plan for anything there, but we can get ideas for things that people are interested in. And that's really helpful. Thank you, BJ. I'll look at that. So that's the conversation. It's not a board meeting. It doesn't really have an agenda. It has kind of a structure, but it doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't get warned. We do try to get word out about it ahead of time so that people know what we're going to be talking about. Maybe there's a set topic, but people are welcome to bring their topics if they'd like to also. Community Engagement Committee is much drier. It has an agenda. It gets warned. It's an opportunity for those people on that committee to think about how we can improve the board's engagement with the community. So it's about strategizing. It's about thinking about things to bring to the board, but it's not necessarily about engaging in that moment. But community members, like for all full board and committee meetings, are welcome to observe and attend. Thank you,
Maria. I think we'll be saying that, as you say, forever.
Mm-hmm. And that's great.
Yeah. Did you find out who is on for the 21st?
I believe I'm on that one as well.
The 21st, it looks like, I'm not muted, am I?
No, you're not. You're
good.
I can hear you.
I see Adrian, Asha. Oh, wait, but this isn't the one that got published. This isn't. And Matt, did you say you were on that one too?
I believe I am.
Okay, that sounds about right. I'll look it up and confirm, and we will definitely put that out when we write to the Front Porch Forums and we post it on Facebook and we say that it's happening. We'll say these are the board members who are coming and these are the committees that they're on in case people have questions that are really relevant to those specific committees. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I have a lot of threads that say community conversation, so trying to find the list of participants
I take responsibility for not looking that up ahead of time. I really should have, and I didn't. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you. We know when everything is. That's wonderful. Liz, we'll go to you for finance.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. We have the following payroll and pay orders for approval this evening. I'm going to start with payroll. We have regular payroll dated May 21st in the amount of $811,443.43. We have special payroll dated May 27th in the amount of $223.73. And we have regular payroll dated June 1st in the amount of $4,692.17 for a total of $816,359.33. We have the following pay orders. From the general fund in the amount of $289,752.58. We have a reissue of voided checks in the amount of $942.62. We have scholarships in the amount of $5,000. Also from the general fund, we have a pay order in the amount of $7,853.04. From after school program, a pay order in the amount of $260.46. And from our food program, a pay order in the amount of $29,240.50 for a total of $333,049.20. And I move that we approve and accept this payroll and these pay orders as presented.
And Sam is seconding. Liz, do you want to deal with this or do you want me to call the question?
I made the motion already.
I said, do you want me to call the question because I don't know how much you can see.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Doug, do you have comments on the pay orders? Because I know you usually go down and review them.
Yeah, I did. Nothing really to worry about this time. But I did have one that came up 2 weeks ago. And I want to sort of apologize to the public out there. I did something that I probably shouldn't have done. I was called to task by a member of the administration who will remain nameless. And I actually talked to somebody, and forgive being not politically correct, I met him at the dump, and I asked him about what he thought about that. He said, I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think anybody would. But what you need to do is to, at the next meeting, say what you found, if you were concerned about it, if you found anything wrong. I did have a conversation with Gary, and it seems like this happens on a regular basis. There are a lot of times it's actually from the trucking company that colonizes the number of bills, and we send this in one lump and it comes up as that amount, although it's a number of other things. And there have been sometimes we've had a bus go in and come back with a $16,000 bill. The main issue that brought this up was that during this course of the year, all of us get our vehicle inspected once a year. A school bus is done 3 times a year. It's done, I believe, sometime in November, another time in February, and then again in May, just to make sure that the kids are safe. There's not anything that have hacked up, especially over the weekend. And then they'll be ready to go in the fall and not have an issue. So I do want to apologize that, but nothing I found was of any concern.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything to say about pay orders? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the pay orders as read by Liz? We could all, oh goodness. I again can't see everybody. If anybody is a no, would they?
It's unanimous, Adrian.
Okay, thank you. Half of the people are frozen on my screen. And Matt, I did see you, and thank you for waving.
And I'll just add that the Finance Committee next meets on Monday, June 28th at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, we are almost through with the agenda. We are under Transact Other Legal Business. I was going to bring up the retreat at this point. Matt, I'll get to you in just a sec. It's going to be the 26th, 9 to 12. And I guess we have to have a conversation on food. And we have a list of people that have raised their hands. So Matt can go first.
All right, so I'm going to take a couple of seconds here. I apologize. About the retreat, you know, we had a very tough election cycle, as we all have discussed and beaten many times over and over and over again, which proved that our communities were broken, were divided, were separated. I had the pleasure of it only taking 3 weeks for me to have my first violation filed against me, as well as there's been 5 violations filed against the board in the last 3 months. I have concerns that we will be violating open meeting laws by having this retreat. My concerns are so much, if I have more than 2 board members in my store at the same time, I go into the back room because I don't want another violation filed against me. I mean, without the public being there, without there being a record, nobody knows if we're going to talk about legal business or, you know, board business. And I'm concerned. I am. I don't want another violation filed against me. So without really getting some information about what constitutes violating open meeting laws, I'm not comfortable with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dave, would you like to address that? You also have your hand raised anyway.
Sorry, unraised my hand and muted myself. My hand was raised for a different topic altogether, so I'm happy to just hold off and wait for that if that's okay.
Well, I was hoping that you would address the idea of a retreat, because I know we've discussed this with Pietro more than once, and there are specific things that the board can meet, and we cannot vote on how we are going to do. But Dave, would you like to weigh in on that? Because I know you've had these conversations.
Yes, and Adrian, I don't have that language in front of me right now. There are pieces of the statute that carve out scenarios where a board can gather and it's not considered a legal meeting. I'd like to I'd like to review that again so that I can give a more informed response in that regard. But it's worth saying that there are scenarios and examples like a training program where the board is not taking any action or planning any action. Those types of scenarios are permissible outside of the open meeting regulations. But again, I don't want to give you any further advice until I give that a really close look, if that's okay.
And Matt, in response to your concern, perhaps we will not have the survey conversation if that feels like it is a too directed a conversation, but certainly a review of goals and what they have meant in the past and what the current members interpret them to be and how we want to go forward. Sorry, I don't know what that is, but I think that thoroughly falls into what Dave will give us as the actual statute information. But Bruce, you had a comment, your hand was raised, and then I'll get to you, Len.
Yeah, I forgot it was up. I was going to say the same thing as Matt said. I thought about it last meeting, and it looks like we're talking about strategic planning and goals and survey discussion. And I'm all for transparency if there's some way we could put it out there. That's all.
Okay, Dave has his hand raised. Thank you, Bruce. And then I'll get to you, Len. I'm just hoping Dave has the information we're looking for.
Sorry, Adrian. Again, that's just for a future topic. I didn't want to get lost.
Never mind. Len, go ahead.
No, and I apologize. I am concerned as well about the open meeting law, and I don't know if there's, I mean, if we're going to talk about board goals and changing those goals, or even discussing those goals, I think that's something that the entire community should know, and whether it needs to be a warned meeting and that kind of thing. I mean, we've had retreats previously, and it seemed at that time that it was okay to run things the way that we did. So I'm kind of split here. We did it before. That doesn't mean it was right, but we did it before. And so I would just ask David, you know, and you, Adrian, as well, just to, I think Matt, and I'll speak for myself, I just want some reassurance that we're okay. That's all.
Okay.
And that would make it better for me.
I think that is perfectly reasonable, and we will follow through with that, Len. And now we have BJ, and then Maria, or then Andrea, then Maria.
Yeah, I am really hoping that we can work out whatever wording we need to work out to have one of these retreats. The ones that we've had in the past, which I even think we've had one on goals, I thought was immensely productive, and really I got to know my fellow board members the best in that situation. So I'm just saying, whatever we need to make this happen in a legal sense, let's go ahead and do it. I'm just telling the public they were one of the best working ways for us to learn to work together in the past. A little bit extended, really just work, casual work. So that's kind of what I wanted to put out there.
Okay, thank you, BJ. Andrea?
So being really new, I'm still trying to figure out a lot of the bylaws and the laws, and I guess I'm trying to piggyback Matt in just the fact that I don't want to get my hand slapped. I'm totally for a retreat and have been for a retreat, but I thought it was more of a get to know, yes, do a team building type thing, because really anything that we need to discuss for a board could be done at a board meeting in a limited time, so that the community can see and the public can be aware of it, and maybe even have a chance to give some of their advice and their opinions. So I guess I'm just trying to follow the rules and be a good board member and wanting to know all of you face to face, but I don't want to break any laws in the process.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. I would like to assure everyone that the board is not going to schedule anything that will break the law. I just want to say that. Maria, you're next.
Thanks, Adrian. The retreat I think that BJ is referring to is one that was really well facilitated by someone who came in from the outside, and we worked on goals. I'm sure that that was appropriate at the time. I did not feel comfortable with that at the time. Honestly, if we're talking about doing a survey and inviting people in for forums to find out what they would like to see our districts do for our students, then I feel like that needs to happen and needs to get collected. And then we need to talk about goals. Before we have heard from people doesn't make sense to me. But I do think there would be great value in us having a retreat on the 26th to get to know each other, for training, because I think that's something that we all need. Maybe it's worth talking about what exactly we'd need, but as far as figuring out what direction is for the district or anything, I don't think that would be an appropriate thing for us to work on in any case. So.
Maria, the concept that I thought we had discussed was that we would go through the goals and introduce them to current board members.
So that's kind of a training, right? I mean, that's
a training.
It's an orientation to where we are now. It's not a planning for the future. And in that respect, yes, it's appropriate.
And I said, given the objections, that perhaps the survey conversation should be held at a board meeting. I think that's totally reasonable. I was thinking of it in terms of planning how it was going to happen. I still think that is a reasonable thing. I wasn't talking about conversations on what the questions would be, but how we were going to go in that direction.
Right. And that wasn't actually even what I was talking about. I was just talking about we should be setting goals before we've done a survey, but I think we should figure out what the survey is in a public meeting, but I know that there are people who are waiting to speak, and I don't want to make this.
I have Asha next on my list, and then Doug, and then back to BJ.
And Dave has his hand up too.
Dave, do you have your hand up to actually speak now, or am I going to call on you and tell you, and you're going to say?
I do. I have something to share, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Knowing that it might be helpful for the group, I have done the quick statutory research. So this is from 1 VSA 310, Kasanchi, which outlines a lot of the ways that a board can gather. And many of you are hitting upon the nuance of this, and it's not even nuanced. It's specific, but it's nuanced. Andrea hit it. Maria hit it. Several of you have hit it. So in reality, it is acceptable for the board to gather in a non-warned fashion for a social gathering and for a training program, given that the work of the board will not be occurring, or you won't be planning for work that will be done at a subsequent meeting. So there's a fine line there to thread, right? Social gathering is pretty clear. If you wanted to have the barbecue that we've discussed for the sake of getting together, that is not a board meeting. If you're getting together to be trained and people are being updated, like new board members being brought up to speed on goals, that's appropriate. As soon as the work turns to, okay, what are we going to do with this? Then you've entered into an official meeting needs to be warned, et cetera. So I think as long as you can kind of keep that spectrum in mind as you're thinking about the work, that kind of informs the way we would need to approach that to be legitimate and clean and everything else. And I would echo what Adrian said. First, I appreciate Matt starting this conversation, bringing it up, saying, hey, let's make sure this is tidy. That's, just to protect the board and protect everyone else. But you want to get the work done, and you want to get it done the right way, in a way that allows you to come together as a group, but also plan legally. So I'm glad this conversation is happening, to be frank.
And perhaps one of the things that we will discuss is going over open meeting law again. But Asha, you had your hand up for a long time. Go ahead.
Thank you. At this point, I'll say what I was going to say. Though, thank you, Dave, for the information. Yeah. So my suggestion is for us to meet for the for social time and training, for what Dave has just raised that would not discuss, that would not entail any planning or goal setting. And then for Maria's suggestion to proceed with a transparent public meeting to discuss survey planning, then for us to conduct a survey, and then for us to have a goals or strategic planning session following the results of the survey, also to be public. Thank you.
Thank you, Asha. Doug.
We are back on. Yeah, I'm just agreeing with everybody. I think we can make this work and keep the wolf out of chewing us up and throwing us away. And it's a way to do that. We'll make it happen, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to speak? Because there's still some hands raised, but I think they're done. Dave, you still wanted to touch on something, so your hand is still up.
You know, Google changed its mute format, and my mute button is a little stickier.
Sure it is.
I'll blame it on the computer. Absolutely. You heard Tyler talking about graduation likely being on Monday. That announcement will be coming out tomorrow. Just want to let all board members know, especially the new ones, if you are interested in attending the ceremony, that is something that is, it's not required or expected, but it is normal that board members occasionally do decide to attend. I would ask, please email Tyler directly. If you don't email him, please call the school office and connect with him directly so that he can just plan to accommodate for you. Just so you know the layout, families are allowed to bring 5 guests, and there will be specifically designated spaces for families. So him knowing in advance if you're coming and if you have anyone who will be with you will help them to arrange that setup. So glad to have you, but please just give them a heads up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll get to the fun part of the retreat comment. Since we want to have a social part to that, I'm assuming we also would like to have food if we're starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. I will volunteer to do coffee and a fruit salad if anybody would like to volunteer to do anything else. Or you can email me afterwards just so that we had something. Go ahead.
I would just ask where it's going
We
to
are
be.
going to have it at the school because
Oh, okay.
it seems easier. We can have the whole library. We can set it up however we want. It'll be air conditioned.
Okay.
We're going to have 100-degree weather at the end of June, which it seems like we might have this week. And I think it would just be more comfortable for everybody, and it would be fun to get back into the school building. I think I've seen some messages come through. Somebody is doing muffins. Okay. Did the person who said yes to muffins raise their hand or say something? I didn't have it.
That would be Maria with muffins.
Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
Seems like a silly thing to be doing. How about everybody emails me with what they'd like to bring? Because I feel ridiculous having a conversation on who's bringing what to a meeting. Okay, so I'll expect some emails on who's bringing what. We'll meet at 9 o'clock at the school. I think we'll have a conversation about what open meeting law means, and we will review the goals that we have now. We'll have some social time where we can eat whatever we end up bringing, and we won't go beyond that in our concern for being open and transparent. Andrea, do you have something?
Oh, never mind. I'll email you later on it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anything else under transact other legal business that anyone would like to bring up, since that seems to be our lengthiest topic these days? Okay, agenda building. Does anybody have anything that they would like to see, BJ?
I think there's going to likely be a first reading of our transportation policy.
Okay.
We're not fully there yet, but I think we're close enough to say that
Okay.
might show up there.
Okay. Well, the next policy meeting, we'll know whether
Yeah.
we to go. Does anyone else have anything that they want to put on the agenda other than the regular? Dave?
If we have the data in, I'll have a goals update for you that can either kick us off for that work on the 26th, or if we're still waiting on a few pieces of detail, I'll have that all in for the 26th. So we may have that on there.
Okay, perfect.
And in addition, I will have a flag request for the board to consider.
Okay, thank you. If there is nothing else, we have executive session if required was.
I see Matt's hand is up, Adrian. I don't know if you can see Matt.
No, I couldn't see it. Go ahead, Matt.
At some point in the near future, can we have a discussion about putting these meetings back in person? I just figure if we're going to have a if we're going to talk about having a retreat in person, I think having a meeting in person is basically the same thing. So
I think you're correct, and I was hoping that when the kids are no longer in the school, that we will have that conversation, and to see where Gary is on having the library available for our use and that kind of practical stuff. But yes.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not good with computers, so this is difficult for me every week.
I don't think it's great for everybody else either, but I appreciate your comments. And Doug is clapping, so that's something. Dave?
Yeah, and to Matt's question, Matt, I'm just projecting this out. You know, we can all anticipate the governor is going to change the orders, you know, within the next week or two, depending on how the data comes out. And I've heard a delineation made as groups like a board and guests and things like that in schools are considered. The conclusion of the school year and when students are no longer around is a factor in that. So if I were guessing, I think in that latter half of June, we'll probably be right in the sweet spot to get back to in-person. We'll just have to pay attention to whether we get any direct, you know, guidance from the state that says you can't do this. But the interesting piece about that is when the executive orders get lifted, the ability of the AOE to say you can't do that, that kind of fizzles away. So again, I think by late June, we're going to be right where we want to be.
Okay. Anybody else? I don't see anybody, but if I've missed you, please.
Adrian,
yes.
It's Andrea. Can we discuss the open bylaws at the next meeting? Just because I think the community should hear the stuff too.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry, I am exhausted. But the open meeting bylaw, like, can we discuss that? Yeah, can we discuss that at the next one so the community and the public can hear what it is too?
Yes, I think that would be fine. That would alleviate a lot of concerns because it is a confusing law, and you know, it never hurts to clarify that for everybody. We will add that. Okay. If there's no executive session needed, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. How about a second? Andrea. All right. I'm assuming there's no conversation. If everybody would just raise their hand and say they are approving of us disappearing for the night. Okay. All right.